It started on a perfectly normal Tuesday morning at the DARPA research facility. Nobody expected anything extraordinary to happen that day. Dr. Ray was doing what she always did, running tests on quantum particles in her underground lab. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, forgotten on her desk as she stared at the strange readings on her screen. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her glasses. The quantum particles were behaving in ways that defied everything she knew about physics. Every time she focused her attention on them, they seemed to dance to a different tune. At first, she thought her equipment was malfunctioning. She'd seen plenty of weird glitches before. That's just part of working with quantum physics. But this was different. The particles weren't just moving randomly. They were responding to her thoughts. She called over her research partner, Dr. Park. "Take a look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "Watch what happens when I concentrate." The particles on the screen shifted and swirled, creating patterns that matched the rhythm of her thoughts. Dr. Park's eyes widened. "Do it again," he whispered. They spent the next 3 hours running test after test, their excitement growing with each successful attempt. This wasn't just some random quantum quirk. They had stumbled onto something huge. Word spread quickly through the facility. By evening, the lab was packed with scientists, military officials, and government representatives. The air buzzed with energy as Dr. Ray demonstrated her discovery again and again. "So you're telling me human consciousness can control these quantum fields?" asked General Thompson, his weathered face skeptical but intrigued. He'd seen a lot in his 30 years of service, but nothing quite like this. "Control isn't exactly the right word," Dr. Ray explained, pushing her hair back from her face. "It's more like a dance. Our consciousness and the quantum field respond to each other. And here's the really interesting part. The effect gets stronger when more people focus together." The implications were staggering. If consciousness could influence quantum fields, and if that effect could be amplified, the possibilities were endless. But it was Dr. Park who made the connection that would change everything. "What if we could build something with this?" he asked during their late-night brainstorming session. Not just a lab experiment, but something bigger. Something that could harness this connection between mind and quantum reality. The idea took root quickly. Within days, the project was classified at the highest levels. The military saw the potential immediately. A ship powered not just by engines, but by human consciousness itself. They called it Project Wayfinder. Teams of scientists and engineers were assembled from around the world. Each was carefully chosen, not just for their technical skills, but for their ability to think beyond the conventional. They set up their base in an abandoned mining facility, working day and night to understand this new frontier where physics met consciousness. The challenges were enormous. How do you build something that responds to thought? How do you protect the human mind from the strain of connecting with quantum fields? Every answer led to 10 new questions, but they kept pushing forward. Dr. Ray worked until she could barely keep her eyes open, then worked some more. This wasn't just about science anymore. It was about pushing the boundaries of what humans could achieve. Some nights, she'd stand at the window of her temporary quarters, looking up at the stars, wondering if they were ready for what might be out there. Little did she know, somewhere in those vast depths of space, others had already noticed Earth's first steps into quantum consciousness, and not all of them were happy about it. As the first month of the project drew to a close, no one involved could have guessed that their groundbreaking discovery wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter in human technology, it was the start of humanity's greatest adventure and most dangerous challenge. The Atacama Desert seemed like the perfect place to hide Earth's biggest secret. 3 years had passed since Dr. Ray's discovery, and what started as a simple lab experiment had grown into something incredible. Deep beneath the desert sand, thousands of workers labored around the clock, building humanity's first quantum field battleship. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Dr. Ray whispered, standing at the observation deck overlooking the massive construction bay. Below, the ship was taking shape, sleek and powerful, its hull gleaming under the bright industrial lights. They'd named it the Quantum Force Ship Wayfinder, though most people just called it the Wayfinder. Commander Lee stood beside her, his hands clasped behind his back. As the chosen captain of this revolutionary vessel, he spent every free moment watching its construction. "Beautiful and terrifying," he admitted. "We're building something that can respond to human thoughts. Sometimes I wonder if we're ready for that kind of power. The construction itself was a marvel of international cooperation. Engineers from 20 different countries worked side by side, each bringing their own expertise to the project. The quantum core, the heart of the ship, pulsed with a soft blue light. It was designed to amplify and channel the crew's collective consciousness, turning thought into pure energy. Dr. Park had developed a special training program for the future crew members. Every morning, they gathered in a circular room lined with quantum sensors, learning to merge their minds with the ship's systems. It wasn't easy. More than a few talented officers had walked away, unable to handle the strange sensation of their consciousness expanding beyond their bodies. Focus on your breathing, Dr. Park would say during the training sessions. Don't try to control the quantum field. Just let your thoughts flow into it naturally. Some days were better than others. Sometimes the quantum field responded perfectly, creating beautiful patterns of energy. Other times, it would fluctuate wildly, refusing to stabilize. But as the months passed, something remarkable happened. The crew began to sync not just with the ship, but with each other. They could sense each other's presence in the quantum field, their thoughts harmonizing like instruments in an orchestra. Commander Lee described it as finding pieces of a puzzle you didn't know was missing. The construction faced its share of challenges. The quantum core was incredibly sensitive. A single negative thought could disrupt its stability. They learned this the hard way when one engineer's bad mood caused a power surge that set the project back by weeks. After that, they installed special quantum dampeners and started requiring meditation sessions for all key personnel. One evening, as the sun set over the desert, Dr. Rai found Commander Lee in the ship's nearly finished bridge. He was sitting in the captain's chair, eyes closed, practicing his connection with the ship's systems. Having doubts again? She asked, noticing the worry lines on his face. He opened his eyes slowly, not doubts exactly, just wondering what we might find out there. We're about to take human consciousness into space. Are we opening a door we can't close? Dr. Ray smiled, understanding his concern. They'd all had similar thoughts. Maybe we are, she said. But isn't that what humans do? We open doors, we explore, we learn. And whatever's on the other side, we face it together. The final touches were being added to the Wayfinder. Its quantum systems were fully operational, its crew nearly ready. Soon, they would test whether a ship powered by human consciousness could really sail through the stars. What they didn't know was that their quantum experiments had already sent ripples through space. Somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, ancient beings were stirring, their attention drawn to the tiny blue planet that dared to breach the boundaries between mind and reality. The countdown to the Wayfinder's first flight had begun, and with it, humanity was about to step into a universe far stranger and more wondrous than anyone had imagined. Launch day arrived with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. The underground facility buzzed with activity as the final checks were completed on the Wayfinder. Commander Lee stood on the bridge, his heart pounding as he looked at his crew, each person chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to connect with the quantum field. All systems are ready, announced the chief engineer, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Quantum core is stable and responding to crew consciousness. The commander took a deep breath. This is Wayfinder actual to control. We're ready for launch. Dr. Ryan watched from the control room, her fingers crossed. Years of work had led to this moment. The massive doors above the facility slowly opened, revealing a strip of star-filled sky. The Wayfinder's quantum core hummed to life, its soft blue glow pulsing in rhythm with the crew's collective heartbeat. The ship rose smoothly, guided by the combined consciousness of its crew. As they broke through the atmosphere, everyone held their breath. This was the real test. Would the quantum field drive work in space as well as it had in testing? Quantum field is holding steady, reported the science officer. Actually, it's getting stronger. It's like the void of space itself is amplifying our connection. The crew felt it too. In space, away from Earth's noisy electromagnetic fields, their connection to the quantum field became crystal clear. The Wayfinder responded to their thoughts with incredible precision, moving through space as naturally as a fish through water. They had just completed their first orbital loop when the sensors picked up something strange. At first, it was just a tiny fluctuation in the quantum field, something that might have been dismissed as background noise. But then it grew stronger. "Commander," called out the sensor operator, her voice tense. "I'm picking up some kind of quantum signature. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." The crew watched in amazement as space itself seemed to ripple in front of them. A shape emerged, a massive vessel that seemed to be made of pure crystal, refracting starlight in impossible ways. It moved with a grace that made the Wayfinder look clumsy in comparison. "It's beautiful," whispered someone on the bridge. The alien ship's presence felt different from anything they'd encountered. It didn't just exist in physical space. It resonated in the quantum field, creating patterns of energy that seemed almost like music. Commander Lee felt a strange sensation in his mind, like someone or something was gently knocking on a door. The rest of the crew felt it too. The alien vessel wasn't just trying to communicate through conventional means. It was reaching out through the quantum field itself. Should we answer?" asked the communications officer, looking uncertain. Dr. Ray's voice came through from control. "Remember your training. Don't resist. Just let your thoughts flow naturally into the field." The crew joined their consciousness together, creating a stable quantum pattern. It was like learning a new language, but instead of words, they were exchanging pure thoughts and emotions. Suddenly, their minds were filled with images, crystalline cities floating in space, ships that traveled through quantum dimensions, and beings that existed partially in realms humans couldn't even perceive. The aliens called themselves the Axiom, and they had been watching Earth's development with great interest. But beneath the wonder of first contact, there was something else, a warning. The Axiom's thoughts carried an undercurrent of urgency, even fear. They weren't just here to say hello. They had come to warn humanity about something darker that was stirring in the quantum depths of space. As the crew of the Wayfinder tried to process this overwhelming first contact, automated sensors began picking up more quantum disturbances. Something else was coming, something that made even the advanced Axiom nervous. Humanity's first step into space had drawn attention, and not all of it was friendly. The real test of the Wayfinder and its crew was about to begin. The crew of the Wayfinder struggled to process what they were seeing. The crystalline ship of the Axiom hovered before them, its surface catching starlight in ways that made it look like a floating diamond in space. But it wasn't the ship's beauty that held their attention, it was the message being shared through the quantum field. "We need to record this," Dr. Ray's voice crackled through the comm system. Back in control, she and her team were frantically trying to document the quantum patterns the aliens were creating. It was like trying to photograph music, beautiful but almost impossible to capture. The Axiom's message flowed into their minds in waves of thought and emotion. They showed humanity's first stumbling steps into quantum consciousness viewed from their perspective. Where humans saw clumsy experiments, they saw the birth of something remarkable. "They're saying we're different," the science officer reported, his voice filled with wonder. "Our consciousness interacts with quantum fields in ways they've never seen before. We're unpredictable." But then the images changed. The crew saw massive dark ships moving through quantum space, leaving dead worlds in their wake. The Void Hunters, the Axiom called them. They were ancient and ruthless, seeing quantum consciousness as their exclusive domain. Any civilization that developed it became a target. Commander Lee felt a chill run down his spine as the implications became clear. "How long?" he asked through the quantum field. The answer came back not in words, but in a feeling of urgent pressure. "Not long. Days, maybe hours." The crew watched in stunned silence as the Axiom shared memories of other worlds that had fallen to the Void Hunters. Civilizations far more advanced than Earth, wiped out because they dared to touch the quantum realm. But there was something else in the message, a glimmer of hope. "They think we might have a chance," the science officer said, translating the complex quantum patterns. "Something about how our minds work. We're unpredictable in ways that could be an advantage." Through the quantum link, the Axiom began teaching them. It was like downloading years of knowledge in minutes, though not everything translated well into human understanding. They learned that the Void Hunters had ruled quantum space for millions of years, seeing themselves as its rightful guardians. "But that's not what quantum space is meant to be," came the alien thought. "It's meant to be free, to evolve. Your species, you think differently. You feel differently. Your quantum patterns are chaos to them, and chaos is what they fear most. The training intensified. The axiom showed them how to strengthen their quantum field, how to use their emotions and instincts in ways their own scientists hadn't imagined. Every crew member felt their connection to the ship growing stronger, deeper. "It's like the ship is becoming part of us," whispered the chief engineer. "Or maybe we're becoming part of it." Then came the warning they'd been dreading. The axiom's crystalline ship suddenly pulsed with urgent light patterns. Their quantum sensors had detected something massive entering the outer solar system. "Multiple quantum ruptures detected," called out the sensor operator. They're huge, bigger than anything we've ever seen." The Void Hunters had arrived early. Humanity's window for preparation had just shrunk from days to minutes. The Axiom ship began to move, taking up a defensive position alongside the Wayfinder. Commander Lee looked at his crew, seeing the fear in their eyes but also the determination. They'd trained for space combat, but not like this. Not against an enemy that could bend reality itself. "Remember what we learned," he said, his voice steady. "They expect us to follow their rules of quantum combat, so let's show them something they've never seen before. Let's show them how humans fight." As the first dark ships appeared on their sensors, the crew of the Wayfinder prepared for humanity's first quantum battle. Earth's fate would depend not just on their technology, but on the uniquely human way they used it. The Void Hunters emerged from quantum space like living shadows, their ships darker than the space around them. They appeared between Earth and Mars, their fleet so vast it seemed to swallow the starlight. The crew of the Wayfinder watched in stunned silence as their sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "Those ships," the chief engineer whispered, "they're bending reality around them. It's like they're creating their own laws of physics." Dr. Ray's voice came through from control, tense but determined. "The quantum field readings are off the charts. They're not just using quantum energy, they're reshaping it." The Axiom's crystalline ship pulsed with urgent light patterns. Through their quantum connection, they shared crucial information. The Void Hunters weren't just here to stop Earth's quantum development, they wanted to make an example of humanity. Commander Lee felt the fear rippling through his crew's collective consciousness. But there was something else too, a uniquely human spark of defiance. "We might not have their technology," he said, "but we have something they don't expect, human unpredictability." The first attack came without warning. Space itself seemed to twist as the Void Hunters launched their assault. Reality warped around their weapons, making normal defensive tactics useless. The Wayfinder shuddered as the quantum field fluctuated wildly. "Quantum core is destabilizing," shouted the engineering officer. "We can't match their power." But Dr. Rai had noticed something. "Wait, look at the readings when we're afraid. The quantum field responds to our emotions. Strong feelings create patterns they can't predict." The crew realized she was right. Every time their emotions peaked, fear, determination, hope, the Wayfinder's quantum field created chaotic patterns that seemed to confuse the Void Hunters' precise, calculated attacks. "Everyone," Commander Lee called out, "stop trying to fight like them. Feel what you're feeling. Let your emotions flow into the quantum field." It was completely different from their training. Instead of maintaining calm, disciplined thoughts, they let their human emotions surge through the ship's systems. Fear became shields of chaotic energy. Determination strengthened their attacks. Hope created quantum patterns that the Void Hunters couldn't anticipate. The massive alien ships faltered, their perfect formations disrupted by the unpredictable human response. The Axiom ship moved in perfect coordination with the Wayfinder, their crystalline technology amplifying the chaos of human emotions. "They're pulling back," the sensor operator called out. "Their quantum patterns are showing confusion. They've never seen anything like this." But victory was far from certain. The Void Hunters regrouped, their ships forming new patterns. Space began to distort on a massive scale, reality itself buckling under their power. They were done playing games, now they were trying to tear apart the fabric of space around Earth. The Wayfinder's crew felt the strain as they pushed their connection to the quantum field to its limits. Sweat beaded on their foreheads as they poured every ounce of human spirit into the fight. The ship's quantum core pulsed with colors never seen before, responding to the pure human determination to survive. Through their quantum link, the Axiom shared an urgent message. The Void Hunters were preparing for their ultimate attack, one that could rip away Earth's quantum field entirely, sending the planet back to the technological dark ages. Dr. Ray's voice cut through the tension. The quantum readings, there's a pattern here we never saw in testing. Human consciousness doesn't just interact with quantum fields, it can reshape them completely. But it would take everything we've got. Commander Lee looked at his crew, seeing the exhaustion on their faces, but also the unwavering resolve. Earth's fate hung in the balance. They had one chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its technology, but in its spirit. Together, he said simply, and felt the crew's consciousness merge with his own, ready to face whatever came next. The real battle was about to begin. Back at the underground base, training took on a whole new urgency. After the first encounter with the Void Hunters, everyone understood what was at stake. The crew of the Wayfinder had to learn things no human had ever attempted before. Again, Dr. Ray called out as the crew sat in the quantum training chamber. Their faces were tired, but their eyes burned with determination. Remember, don't fight your emotions, use them. The training sessions were intense. Each crew member wore special sensors that monitored their connection to the quantum field. The room itself was designed to amplify their mental connection, helping them learn how to merge their consciousness not just with the ship, but with each other. Commander Lee watched his crew push themselves beyond their limits. It's like learning to be one person, he explained to the technical team. But without losing what makes each of us unique. That's our advantage. We're many and one at the same time. They discovered something fascinating during these sessions. Each person's emotions affected the quantum field differently. The navigator's sense of direction created stable pathways through quantum space. The engineer's technical knowledge helped shape the field's structure. Even their different personalities became tools in this strange new form of combat. Look at this, Dr. Rai pointed to her screens during one session. When you work together, your quantum patterns become more complex. The Void Hunters may be more powerful, but they're too perfect, too ordered. Our chaos is our strength. The crew learned to share memories, feelings, and instincts through the quantum field. At first, it was overwhelming, like having multiple lives playing in your head at once. But gradually they learned to flow with it, letting the experiences mesh together into something greater than its parts. It's not about control anymore, the chief engineer realized during a particularly breakthrough moment. It's about trust. Trusting each other, trusting our instincts, trusting the ship itself. They practiced combat scenarios for hours on end. The simulators couldn't perfectly recreate the Void Hunters' reality-bending attacks, but they could help the crew learn to respond with coordinated chaos. Each failure taught them something new. Each success made their connection stronger. One day, during a particularly challenging exercise, something clicked. The entire crew felt it, a moment when their separate consciousness flowed together like streams joining into a river. The quantum field around them erupted with patterns so complex that the monitoring equipment overloaded. That's it, Dr. Ray shouted excitedly. That's what we need. The Void Hunters understand quantum physics, but they don't understand the human heart. They can't predict what they can't comprehend. But the training wasn't just about combat. The crew had to learn to maintain their connection for hours at a time, supporting each other when the mental strain became too much. They learned to read each other's quantum signatures, knowing instantly when someone needed help or rest. Commander Lee established a new training routine. Mornings were for physical exercise, keeping their bodies strong for the mental demands. Afternoons were for quantum connection practice. Evenings were for team bonding, sharing meals, stories, and building the trust they'd need in battle. We're not just training to fight, he told them. We're training to prove something. To prove that humanity's messiness, our emotions, our unpredictability, these aren't weaknesses. They're our greatest strength. The Axiom watched their progress with growing interest. Through quantum communications, they shared their amazement at how quickly humans were adapting, evolving, finding new ways to use the quantum field that even their advanced civilization hadn't discovered. As the days passed, the crew's connection grew stronger. They could feel it in everything they did, the way the ship responded more smoothly to their thoughts, the way they could anticipate each other's actions, the way their combined consciousness could create quantum effects that defied explanation. They were becoming something new, not just a crew, not just humans, but pioneers on the edge of what consciousness could achieve. And they would need every bit of that growth for what was coming. The moment of truth arrived sooner than anyone expected. The Void Hunters launched their main assault just as the sun rose over Earth's Pacific Ocean. Their massive ships emerged from quantum space like a storm of shadows, darkening the space between Earth and its moon. Commander Lee stood on the Wayfinder's bridge, feeling his crew's consciousness merge with his own. Their weeks of training had prepared them for this moment. The quantum core hummed with energy, responding to their combined will. "All stations ready," the first officer reported, her voice steady despite the tension. Through their shared connection, everyone could feel her determination, adding strength to their own. The Axiom's crystalline ship moved into formation beside them, its surface reflecting the distant sunlight like 1,000 diamonds. Their alien allies had taught them much, but now it was time for humanity to forge its own path. The first wave of Void Hunter ships attacked with overwhelming force. They bent space itself, creating distortions that threatened to tear the Wayfinder apart. But this time, the crew was ready. "Remember your training," Dr. Ray's voice came through the comm. "Don't fight the chaos, embrace it." The crew let their emotions flow freely into the quantum field. Their fear became shields of unpredictable energy. Their courage powered weapons that pulsed with human determination. Their hope created quantum patterns that the Void Hunters couldn't predict or counter. "Look at their formations," the tactical officer called out. "They're trying to box us in with their reality distortions." But the Void Hunters had never faced anything like this before. Where they expected order, they found chaos. Where they looked for patterns, they found human unpredictability. The Wayfinder moved like a dancer through their attacks, each motion guided by the combined instincts of its crew. The battle pushed everyone to their limits. Sweat ran down faces as they poured everything they had into the quantum field. The ship's systems crackled with energy as human emotions amplified its power beyond anything its designers had imagined possible. "They're adapting," someone shouted as the Void Hunters changed tactics. Their ships began moving in new patterns, trying to counter the Wayfinder's chaotic defense. But that's when the crew made their most amazing discovery. As the battle intensified, their emotional connection grew stronger. Every close call, every successful maneuver, every moment of shared danger brought them closer together. The quantum field around the ship began to pulse with colors never seen before. The Axiom noticed it first. Through their quantum link, they sent a message of astonishment. The human crew wasn't just using the quantum field. They were changing it, reshaping reality itself through the pure power of their combined consciousness. "The readings are off the scale." Dr. Ray's excited voice cut through the battle noise. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." The crew's shared consciousness expanded further, touching the quantum fabric of space itself. They could feel the Void Hunters' confusion, their growing uncertainty. These perfect ancient beings had never encountered a species that could turn emotion into such raw power. A massive Void Hunter ship moved to strike what it thought would be a killing blow. But in that moment, the crew of the Wayfinder acted as one. Their combined will surged through the quantum field, creating a disruption that made the enemy ship's reality-bending weapons backfire. The sight of their flagship's weapons failing caused chaos in the Void Hunter fleet. Their perfect formations began to break apart as they faced something they'd never encountered in millions of years: defeat at the hands of a younger, less advanced species. Through the quantum field, the crew could sense more than just victory. They had shown that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in technology or power, but in its ability to join together, to feel deeply, to turn apparent weakness into unprecedented strength. As the remaining Void Hunter ships retreated, the crew of the Wayfinder maintained their connection, knowing this was just the beginning of humanity's journey into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. In the days following the battle, the Axiom's crystalline ship hovered near the International Space Station, its presence a constant reminder of how much the world had changed. Earth's governments struggled to process what had happened, but the Axiom didn't wait for politicians to catch up. "They want to teach us," Dr. Rai explained during an emergency meeting at the underground base. "They've seen something in us they've never encountered before. A new way of connecting with quantum reality." The Axiom shared their knowledge freely, explaining how human consciousness had properties that even their advanced civilization hadn't discovered. Through the quantum field, they showed the crew visions of possibilities that took their breath away. "It's not just about battleships anymore," the chief engineer said, her eyes wide with wonder as she studied the Axiom's technical data. "We could use this technology to explore the universe in ways we never imagined." The crew of the Wayfinder became teachers themselves, helping other carefully selected teams learn to connect with quantum technology. Each group discovered their own unique way of interacting with the quantum field, proving that human diversity was a source of incredible strength. "Look at how differently each team approaches it," Commander Lee observed during a training session. "Some use music in their minds to create quantum patterns. Others use mathematical visualization. Each human connection brings something new to the field." The Axiom were particularly fascinated by human emotions. Through their quantum link, they explained that most advanced species had moved beyond such primitive feelings, seeking pure logic instead. But humans had proven that emotions weren't a weakness. They were a source of power that could reshape reality itself. Training facilities were set up around the world, each one discovering new applications for quantum consciousness technology. Scientists found ways to use it for healing, engineers developed quantum transportation systems, and explorers began planning missions to the farthest reaches of space. "We're writing a new chapter in human history," Dr. Ray told her team as they watched a group of students learning to connect with a quantum field for the first time. "But we have to be careful. With great power comes great responsibility." The Axiom agreed. They shared stories of other civilizations that had gained incredible power too quickly and destroyed themselves. But they saw something different in humanity, a balance of progress and caution, of emotion and reason, of individual spirit and collective strength. Commander Lee and his crew continued to patrol Earth's quantum space, ready to defend against any return of the Void Hunters. But they found themselves becoming diplomats as well as defenders. Other alien species, drawn by news of Earth's unique approach to quantum technology, began making contact. "Each new species teaches us something different," the science officer reported during a deep space mission. "And they all seem amazed by how we humans do things. Our primitive emotions create quantum patterns they've never seen before." The Wayfinder's quantum core was upgraded with Axiom technology, allowing for deeper exploration of space and reality. The crew's connection grew stronger with each mission, their shared consciousness expanding to understand more of the universe's mysteries. One evening, as Earth glowed blue and beautiful through the ship's viewport, Commander Lee felt a new kind of quantum ripple through the crew's shared consciousness. Not fear or determination this time, but pure wonder at what they'd achieved and what lay ahead. "We went from doubting whether we could power a ship with our minds to reshaping quantum reality itself," he said to his crew. "And we did it not by becoming more like machines or pure energy beings, but by embracing what makes us human." The Axiom's message pulsed through the quantum field, sharing their agreement. Humanity had proven that the path to the stars didn't require leaving behind emotions or individuality. Instead, it was about finding new ways to come together, to turn individual sparks into a flame bright enough to light up the darkness of space. The final confrontation with the Void Hunters came not with a massive fleet battle, but with a profound discovery that changed everything. As the Wayfinder patrolled the edges of Earth's solar system, their enhanced quantum sensors detected something unexpected, a pattern in the quantum field that seemed almost like a heartbeat. "It's coming from everywhere," the science officer reported, her hands moving across the sensor controls. "No, not just everywhere, it's coming from reality itself." Dr. Ray and her team had been studying the quantum readings from their battles with the Void Hunters. Through their connection with the Axiom, they'd begun to understand something incredible about the nature of consciousness and reality. "The universe isn't just a place," Dr. Ray explained to the crew during an emergency briefing. "It's alive in its own way, and we've all been touching different parts of it through the quantum field. The Void Hunters try to control it. The Axiom try to understand it. But humans, we've been doing something entirely different." The crew felt it through their shared consciousness, the way their emotions and thoughts rippled through the quantum field, creating patterns that resonated with the very fabric of space-time. They weren't just using the quantum field. They were in harmony with it. Commander Lee stood on the bridge, feeling the truth of it through his connection with the crew. The Void Hunters don't need to be defeated, he realized. They need to understand what we've discovered. When the Void Hunter fleet returned for their final attack, the crew of the Wayfinder did something unprecedented. Instead of raising quantum shields or preparing weapons, they opened their shared consciousness as wide as possible, inviting their enemies to feel what they felt. The Void Hunters hesitated, their perfect formations faltering as they encountered something they'd never experienced in millions of years of existence, and offered to connect rather than fight. Through the quantum field, the crew shared everything: their fears, their hopes, their understanding of how consciousness could work with reality rather than trying to control it. The Axiom joined in, their crystalline technology amplifying the connection. At first, there was resistance. The Void Hunters had spent eons believing they were the rightful guardians of quantum space. But human consciousness, with its chaos and emotion and creativity, showed them something they'd forgotten: that the universe wasn't meant to be controlled, but experienced and shared. "Look," the sensor operator called out, pointing to the main screen. The quantum field around them was changing, filling with colors and patterns never seen before. The Void Hunters' ships began to pulse with these new energies, their rigid structures softening, adapting. For the first time in their ancient history, the Void Hunters experienced reality through the lens of human emotion. They felt the joy of discovery, the strength of connection, the power of working with the quantum field rather than trying to dominate it. The transformation rippled through space. Other species watching from afar saw ancient barriers breaking down, new possibilities emerging. Humanity hadn't just survived its trial by fire, it had shown a new way forward for all quantum-capable civilizations. "This is what we were meant to do," Dr. Ray said softly, watching the quantum readings stabilize into beautiful, complex patterns. "Not to conquer space, but to help it grow, to add our own music to the universe's song." The crew of the Wayfinder felt their consciousness expand one final time, touching the edges of understanding they'd never dreamed possible. They had become more than explorers or defenders. They were bridges between different ways of experiencing reality. As the former Void Hunters withdrew, now transformed by their encounter with human consciousness, Commander Lee looked at his crew. In their faces, he saw the future, not just of humanity, but of all conscious beings who dared to reach beyond what they thought possible. The quantum universe had changed forever, and humanity's unique gift, its capacity to feel, to connect, to grow, had shown the way forward. It wasn't the end of their journey, but rather the beginning of something far greater than anyone had imagined.